Hi.
Are you outside?
I'm in my barn.
Oh, hence
Can you
the
hear me
cozy
okay?
attire.
Yeah, I'm freezing. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
This
can
is
hear
really
you.
weird. I've never done a live before, so I'm still like a rookie noob at this.
Oh, well, welcome. We've
And I'm gonna have really bad angles of me the whole time.
Just like half cut off face. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to hold this and like work up my arm the entire time because I haven't figured out a way to do it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just like, set it up against a bunch of like books or.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna do a walking tour at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're not
Big
on
plan.
for a super long time. It'll be good for your arm. It'll be like a practice for, a television show where you have to like show resiliency through tedious pain.
Squid Game.
Squid Game,
oh my gosh. I just finished watching that. I like watched all of it really rapidly.
Yes.
One does with television.
Yeah. It was really good, but also it's just so sad. It was really sad.
I got hooked on it too, but I'm wondering if I actually like some of the things I liked, some of the twists and stuff, but also I was like, the part with the rich people was like, really? Like, that's kind of obvious. And like them wearing masks and being like weird sex people and stuff like that, it was just like, okay, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah, Kyle hasn't got to that part yet. So spoilers for those that haven't watched Squid Games yet. Although I was listening to CBC before I watched it.
Spoilers never really bothered me.
They were talking about it, and they basically spoiled the entire thing.
Okay.
Like, they gave all of the twists away, and I was like, I mean, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not super worried about spoilers, but it was sort of like the show had just come out, CBC. What the heck?
Yeah.
They were like, all 9 episodes are up. If you wanted to watch it, you would have watched it in a day. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
I watched the first couple episodes with like the English actors. And like it was rough, very rough. So then I started rewatching it all in the original Korean language. It'll be much better. Much better.
Or you can do the combo of watching it with dubbed and subtitles.
It's a lot.
Yeah. Just because subtitles and the English changed the meaning in their own way, Yeah,
it's true. Oh my gosh. Well, we're super happy to see you. And even if your phone gets weird angles from time to time or our internets decide to be terrible, it's nice to have you on. And thanks for joining us for Flat Files.
Oh, I'm honored to be here.
We always try to give a little bit of an introduction. This is our like weekly live chat with a fellow creative type. They range in media and material, and we just do like a studio tour, and we share some art, and we just have a very casual, non-planned chat with whomever we're talking to. And today we're talking to Ryan. So we usually pass it over to our guests so that you can introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do, what you make.
Well, I'm Ryan, and I make films, and I gardens. I make vegetables, I guess, and fruit. And I consider that a key part of my artistic process, practice. And I assume this would be a bit of a therapy session for all three of us to talk about art. So I can't wait to get started.
I do feel like we're gonna kind of the audio is gonna get truncated because you don't have headphones in. So I'm a little worried about the continuity of conversation, because I can tell when you're talking and we're talking, we block your audio out.
Gotcha. Okay. Do you want me to try and get headphones quick?
Yeah, if that's cool.
Yeah. If you can't find them, that's okay too. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Flat Files. We ventured out to a cottage this week.
Oh my
gosh. And the first time
did.
that I leave the house, I came back and now I'm sick.
Yeah, Kyle got a cold. He's fine in general, but he does have a little bit of a cold.
But it's that time of year. This is like that transition point between like summer and winter, and probably one of my favorite seasons because now I get to pull out all of my sweaters and now I just live in 1 to 2 sweaters every single day for the next 6 months.
The puppy's in the room with us today, and I don't trust him completely to not eat the bottoms of our chair.
Okay.
So if I disappear, it's because I'm looking at Puppy. Hey!
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Perfect. You now look extra bundled because it looks like you have little earmuffs on.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
It feels that way too. It's great. I mean, it dropped like 10 degrees in the past 24 hours or something. So I'm still working out in the barn because I have renters in my house this week, and my studio's set up in the barn, and I have a wood stove here going, but the windows are kind of leaky and it's not super great. So I just bundle up, but the sun came out, so that's nice. So
well, your barn's also huge. Trying to heat that
huge.
with a wood stove must be insane.
Yeah, I know.
Well, we'll get a tour, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'll show you actually just quickly. So we got, I can't see it.
The windows in the barn are amazing.
So we got a little fire going here.
You can press the flip icon on the on Instagram, and you can look at what you're seeing.
Bottom right, is that it? Or
where is the flip?
It shows up along the bottom.
Yeah. It's like a microphone, video, flip, and then a face.
If you tap the screen, it'll kind of dismiss all the comments and flip to a different menu a little bit.
Oh, I can dismiss comments? That's amazing.
No, don't say that. I love the comments. That's my favorite part.
I can't see anything because they're all there. No, I'm not gonna. I don't know. It's it's too complicated.
You know what? It's like a type of film that you don't know how to do, which I like.
Yeah.
I feel like we're beating the filmmaker right now, which I
you
secretly enjoy.
But look, can you see that?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, there's a fire. And there's the back. I'm just guessing what I'm showing you, but I think it'll work.
Yeah.
There's the back, you can't quite see the pond. And then here's the yard with the sun coming in and nice yellow loungers, if you can see those.
Love it. Yeah, you can. And the gardens.
Yeah. And then I got the gardens going. I still got some kale growing, got some shishitos, some chard. It's doing well.
That's love.
This is my little hack edit suite setup here, kind of with my 2 monitors and where all the magic happens, really. So here we are.
The joys of
quick tour
doing video is that you can sustain yourself on 2 computers and not multiple bits of equipment.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure also, cameras and sound and all the other things that I don't know anything about. Oh, and a cat.
And this guy, my assistant editor.
So you so you also are working on your new coffee project as well, which I would say is kind of a different creative angle because it's more, it seems like, and I could be wrong, but more of a design and it feels like you're a bit more of the concept design component of that partnership, but maybe I'm understanding.
No, that's true. Yeah, so a year ago, I started a coffee company called Vortex Coffee here in the county with my neighbor Johnny Rutten, who lives across the street from me, and who owns and roasts for Cherry Bomb Coffee. Who's also has a shop in Toronto, but is also in a lot of the shops out here for their bags of beans. And Johnny and I had just been kind of hanging out in his garage, drinking over the years, and talking about joking about starting our own little company that just as a sort of side project. And then I was lucky enough, I put in for a grant here in the county that we got for small business development through Pella, and that was great. And we just kind of went for it. And we're lucky to have Clayton Hanmer, who now lives in Bloomfield, who did the design and the illustration kind of for the original bag, which everybody seems to love. And we were lucky to have these two local artists, Kyle Topping and Chrissy Poitras, to to design some art for the bags. Yeah, hopefully they're watching, and also Carl Weens, who did an awesome bag. And yeah, so I was trying to get artists involved and just kind of take this idea. I guess for me, and I haven't totally been able to realize it, but it was also this idea of the vortex as like, locals here know the South Marysburg vortex out in Lake Ontario in this triangle that's kind of called the Bermuda Triangle of the North. So I wanted to play on that, and I wanted to make some videos. I started making a documentary and a film about it. But it's kind of gotten waylaid with like COVID and just everything going on. But I've, been to the archives in Wellington, and I'm sort of trying to find out more information about what happened in the 60s around the area, with some UFO sightings and all this kind of weird stuff that I think is just like,
wait, what?
Yeah, like there's a thing called Project Magnet in the 60s that happened out here in the lake, where the Canadian and US government did a study of like magnetic anomalies in the lake. And they were
Pardon me?
Yeah. Like if you look up, you guys know Andrew King, right? Yeah. So I guess he's an illustrator, painter. I don't know what he would call himself, but he's based in Ottawa, but he grew up, his parents live in Cherry Valley near me. And he's published, like, for what I know, like the only really article on it in like the Ottawa Citizen, and he did some cool drawings of this thing called the Charity Shoal. I'm getting really deep here, down this rabbit hole, but it's this like basically a meteor impact in the lake, and it created this weird, it creates this weird magnetic anomaly. So like when planes or ships go over that area, weird stuff happens to their compasses. And just moving my cat. And yeah, so there's lots of shipwrecks in the area that have been unexplained, but it's probably because of this thing. And it seems supernatural, but there's probably a scientific reason behind it. So anyway, in the 60s, there was like a lot of UFO conspiracy stuff and in the world, in North America and stuff. So at the time, there was like some research going on in Ottawa about it, like, and they were looking at the lake here to see what was going on with that area. So anyway, long story short, I thought it would be a cool name for a coffee company out here, and I want to play on that more. And then also Andrew McLuhan, who runs the McLuhan Institute, is like Marshall McLuhan has some literature like discussing the idea of the media vortex and how that kind of envelops people and how they, the medium is the message, where people receive their information, how they receive it, how they interpret it, that kind of whole thing. And so I was talking with him about getting more involved in the philosophy behind the idea of the vortex too. So at some point I'll return back to that when I'm not so busy, and there'll be some weird videos released, I'm sure, through the coffee company. But for now, it's we've just kind of been using it as a way to kind of get a side hustle out there for Johnny and I, and make coffee that we both really love. Johnny does all the roasting, and I kind of handle the rest of it. And we have a cafe in Toronto we're the sole supplier in Parkdale, Larry's Folly, Bloomfield Public House here, and they sell at Beacon and some other places out here. So yeah, it's been fun, and it's been really interesting as an artist, watching a business like just seeing, like, literally counting the beans, like beans cost this much on a bag to come in from Ethiopia on a ship, and then I get them here, and then like 130-pound bag, when it's roasted, goes down to this many pounds, and then we sell it per pound, but for this much, and like just like watching the numbers as a spreadsheet is something that I can relate to as a producer in film, but like it's kind of this really tactile thing, and like going in each week and like bagging the beans myself, bagging 150 pounds of beans, like it's just a very like I can shut my mind off, listen to podcasts, and not think about anything, and just kind of do that. And yeah, so that's kind of nice too.
Yeah, because it's kind of the total opposite. Because like film is not a small task.
It's not a passive experience.
Yeah, no.
And you're always multitasking, that's the thing too. Whereas with coffee, I just go in, I put some stickers on a bag, I scoop a pound of coffee into a thing, I weigh it, I seal it, like it's very, yeah, it's been a good outlet in that way for sure.
So have you been working on new film projects as well? Like you're in the studio right now, or are you still like full into like promoting and putting out the Drifting Snow piece?
Well, we just had a screening of Drifting Snow in Toronto last week at the Royal Cinema, which was great. We had a Q&A
Yeah.
with Jonas Bonetta. It's and that was really lovely. And so that was the Toronto screening, I guess you could call it. In September, we had some screenings on Labor Day across the country at theaters that I honestly don't know how many people went out to, but like some people did, I guess. Like in random places like Nanaimo or I don't know, New Westminster or Guelph or something like that. And it was just like, all
Yeah.
right, I guess, you know. But it's such a small film, we don't really have a marketing budget for it, so it's kind of tough to know where you're getting those eyeballs or whatever. And we had a screening in August, a couple screenings in August at the Regent in Picton, which was really lovely to see the local reaction to things. Like when they saw, there's a shot of the saw-whet owl, and people were like audibly gasping, and like, you know, it was just really nice to see that kind of reaction that you don't quite get in Toronto. You got a different reaction there, which is also cool. But yeah, so yeah, I'm still kind of pushing that a bit, but it's been done for about 2 years, and it's was delayed for a year to put out, and it's on iTunes and Apple TV and a bunch of those streamers and stuff. So there's always a little bit of stuff that trickles up every now and then to promote it, and I'm super happy with it and how it turned out. And the reviews have been like, I couldn't have asked for better reviews from critics and stuff. So that's great, and I'm slowly working on finding some time to write my next kind of fiction project. But for now, I'm working and making money as an editor to try and pay back all the money I invested in that film.
Can you talk a little bit about like just the process of like making something like that? Because I I feel like, you know, what comes up a lot in these chats is the behind the scenes, the realities of like time and, like you said, money. I mean, film is like a level of money investment that I think is like incomprehensible to me. And also just like people, I think like the people that are involved in the negotiations. Like I know we had talked about the one scene where there was like a bit of a like car incident. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say about what.
Oh yeah, I can say anything.
Okay. And
it's not
like
a spoiler
just
like Squid Game.
And just like even the like navigating, like trying to film a certain type of scene. Yeah, I just feel like I had never considered something like that. And like as visual artists, we do for the most part get to work very much like in our own little bubble on our own timelines. We get to dictate a lot of the budget because we don't have to like hire people in a lot of circumstances. So yeah, I think like that's an interesting part of what you do that's so different than a lot of the people that we talk to.
Yeah, I like talking about it, and I'm just like very open about it too, because I feel like that whether or not someone's listening who actually wants to make a film or whatever, like I just like people to just be aware of like what the reality of it is. And so like just very simply, like I got a $60,000 grant from the Canada Council for the Arts. Some friends of mine who have an arts incubator in Toronto put in another 15,000, which is very kind of them. And that's basically the hard budget of the film. And the crew who worked on it, which, you know, was anywhere between 4 to 5 people maybe in a given day, like myself, Tess, who shot it, Jonas, who often did the sound when he wasn't acting, and then like literally my neighbors here in Cherry Valley who currently work or used to work in the film industry, Doug Arculus and Kelly Hearns. You know, everyone worked for like 200 or $150 a day, like, and they weren't just like 8-hour days or like 12-hour days, you know, whatever. We fed them well, but it was cold, and you know, it was a slog, and I'm so thankful to all them to make that work. But like we kind of all had to do it that way to make the budget work. And then the tricky thing too is like I had to originally I was going to do it with non-union, but because Jonas was not ACTRA, it was his first acting experience, and ACTRA is the actors union in Canada. And so once you want to have one person from ACTRA, the entire production has to be ACTRA. So when Sonia Smits came on board, which gave a certain cachet to the movie, even within us as a crew, we were just like, it kind of really lifted our spirits. Like, oh my God, she believes in this. She's like been in so many big things. Like, she's willing to like kind of slum it with us indie filmmakers. Like, then this must be something worth making, So, but that meant I had to get a permit from ACTRA that Jonas could be in it, because we had to explain why. I had to go and have meetings in Toronto, why we shouldn't be using ACTRA people to play that role. And similarly for his sister, who he wanted to play his sister in the movie, and who is actually like a big kind of star in like LA now, like is on like the NFL network as a host, and like was on Fox Sports and all this stuff. She's really blowing up in the States. Yeah. And she like flew back on her own dime to like shoot with us for like 48 hours. It was incredible of her. But I had to get permit for her because she was American Union, not Canadian. And so again, like it was just a little tricky. And then, yeah.
I had no idea.
What kind of bureaucracy happens
I didn't know
when you
that.
hire somebody from America?
Well, she is Canadian, but it was that she's SAG, which is the American version of ACTRA. So she didn't have the credits as ACTRA to kind of be included. And they have to pay dues, right? They have to pay like $1,000 a year or whatever it is to be a member, and they get benefits. And so there are some good things for them out of it. It just makes, and it's always made production at a certain budget level very difficult for filmmakers in Canada, which is why a lot of them go non-union, and some actors even stay non-union because it's just too. Once you make that leap, it has to be above a certain budget to make it make sense. So, but I went ACTRA, and there's rules about like you then are just like on the hook for some basic things, but like you have to pay their travel from Toronto to here, their mileage, their this or that, their time, they have breaks, like there's all these things you just have to kind of follow and report timesheets and stuff. So Rebecca Hunt, who runs Picnic, was a co-producer on it, and she really did a great job following all that stuff for me while we were shooting. But that, just as a producer, that was a big headache to kind of follow, and there's overtime and like after a certain hour and this and that. And so yeah.
Is that the role of a producer? Because I actually don't know what a producer is. I see it on shows and movies, but I don't actually. I always thought that they were just the money people. Is that not?
The executive producer is the money person.
Okay.
And they could do nothing but put their name on it. Like it could be like Quentin Tarantino presents, and he just like was like, yeah, cool, I'll put my name on it so you can raise some money. You know what I mean? Like, and he'd get an executive producer credit. I started a Kickstarter like 3 days before the pandemic happened, and I had to cancel it because it felt so weird. But a random guy from Atlanta found it and invested in the movie a couple $1,000, and he did that for the credit of co-executive producer. You know what I mean? He had nothing to do with the movie creatively, but he wanted that credit. He wanted for his IMDb, for his and he believed in the film. He liked what I was doing and stuff. But so that's kind of how that works sometimes. But then there's two sides of shooting. There's like, you try and block everything together with your actors, right? So to minimize, to be most efficient. So you have like, okay, we're going to shoot these 7 days in a row, and then we're going to take 3 days off, and then we're going to shoot these 7 days or 5 days or whatever it is. And you block out all your scenes. So you're shooting out of order because, you want to you're trying to be efficient, not necessarily follow the actual arc of the story. And then the flip side of it for a film like this, which is not most films, but like Tess and I would just go out and get like some footage of the landscape, or snow or whatever else. And there's like shots in the movie that I might have gotten like 2 years before we started filming, just with my drone or something, of like sandbanks, when I was like, happened to be out skiing, happened to take my drone with me, happened to get a cool shot. And then when I was editing the movie, it's like, this should be in the movie. So I put it in the movie, and like, luckily the quality and the camera matched still, and it was close enough. We could make it work. And then we, so we did kind of, I think 17, 18 days of that kind of shooting with actors, and then a bunch of those other like days or hours or half days or whatever you want to call it, just randomly picking up some other shots of landscapes. And then we did some pickups where like I started editing the movie and I was like, okay, I know I need to get this shot of this. Let's go here and get it. We need 2 more days. We need to reshoot some scenes with Sonia and Jonas in the car driving, because the first time we did it, we had 3 hours we hired the OPP to be in front of us and behind us. So we could drive on Bath Road with like a camera mount on the side of the car, like looking in.
Right.
And so you have to get police escort for that. And that cost me like $3,000 for like 3 hours,
Whoa.
So, but like at some point you kind of just weigh the benefits of like, well, I really want to get these shots. These are really important to the film. There's no other way I can get it without like doing it illegally, essentially, which I did a lot of things illegally in the movie, but like that was one that I was a little more nervous because the camera's on the outside of the car, and you know what I mean? Like anything could happen. So I just bit the bullet and we did that. And that was fine. I mean, yeah, so it's a weird process. And there's shots in the film like of the giant tiger in Picton, the big mural of the tiger with like snow in front of it. And I looked back at my Instagram and I was like, I shot that in like 2015 or 2016. I shot an image of that. And I always like had in my mind, like not specifically for this film, I was like, I got to put that in a film. I got to put that in a film. It's so weird seeing like snowbanks and this tiger and like small town and like all this stuff. And then of course it ended up in the film, and it was like one of the last days we were shooting, we went out and got it. And so like where the inspiration and all that stuff comes from is a whole other story, because I think the film took like not obviously every day, but like 5-6 years to quote right, you know what I mean? And like to just develop and get to this point. And obviously I just threw out a bunch of stuff, and then in editing I threw out a bunch of stuff too. And so yeah, it's a long process, but again, like there's other things I was doing during that time to either make money or just other projects I was producing or working on. So yeah.
So like out of that 75 grand, like are you buying your own equipment? Like how much does it cost to like mount a camera to the outside of a car? Like is that somebody you can call up, like some equipment rental in like Toronto?
It is.
And they're like, here's some random metal bits.
Apparently
for sure. William F. White, which is like one of the biggest film suppliers in Canada, they have like that kind of stuff. But I looked it up online, and there's like this great thing. It's called it's got a great name. It's like a cowboy tray or something like that. It's like I can't remember what it's called, but like it basically slides in beside your window. So your window's up, and part of it slides in the space between your window and the rubber kind of there. And then the camera sits on top of that. But the force of that, and then there's like a suction cup that comes down from it against the side door, so it holds up the bottom. And so you just like you rig it really tight like that, and it's just the kind of the forces of it kind of hold it there tightly, and then same for the hood. Looking back at the drivers, it's basically a bunch of suction cups, like, and you. It's so simple and stupid, but like that's kind of what it is.
I've seen the cameras that you work with. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
so nervous about putting that on a car.
Of course. I mean, the camera is like worth $10,000 or something, and the lens too. We rented some lenses, like, but you have insurance. I mean, you just, you kind of just like
you like rent the camera bodies and the lenses and all of the gear, right? Like, are you bringing any of your own stuff to the film?
Yeah. So over the years, like Tess and I had bought some gear, so we had a camera body that's like a really good body. And then we were renting lenses from a shop in Toronto, and they gave us a really good deal. And we kind of worked around, like we were shooting in the winter when people aren't shooting as much, so that was a benefit. So we could get some stuff that people would normally maybe have rented. And so we would bring those packs out for like a week, and then take them back, and then bring them out for another week or whatever when we were shooting. And yeah, the lenses themselves depends. Like I think at one point, not on the car, but we had like a $15,000 lens, out with us, like that we were just renting. And like,
oh my God.
Yeah, it feels surreal. But that's kind of just what people do. They rent them, they have insurance, and yeah.
What? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's all.
What I was gonna ask, like, what how does filming something like that, which I feel it's like a proper, like basically feature length, if I remember correctly, film, versus like doing like the minutes that you did up north, or doing like the project that you did with the national parks. Like, I mean, obviously like story and like maybe like storyboarding and trying to like create a like narrative structure that like carry someone through is a bit different between the national, but I would still felt like the national park still had a very clear narrative, even though it was less like you know, reading a story or following like a specific moment in time. But for you, like how what different qualities do those bring to your practice? And yeah.
Well, I made the National Parks Project first in like 2010, 2011. It came out, I think, 2011. So that, for anybody who doesn't know,
maybe explain that a little bit just in case.
So that was to celebrate Parks Canada's 100th anniversary. And so myself and my two friends, Jeff Morrison and Joel McConvey, got this crazy idea to say, like, let's go to a park in each province and territory and take 3 musicians and a filmmaker and have them stay there for 5 days and make a film and make the soundtrack for the film while they're all there, and then come back and edit that film and release them as like 13 short films, you know? And that was the genesis of the idea. Then it became, okay, how do we fund this? Because like that's expensive to go to all these parks, and Parks Canada was on board. They were really interested in it to use as one of their main media things to celebrate, you know, the 100th anniversary. And obviously they could help get us access and like into these parks in like a really, you know, like hands-on way. But they, you know, there were still the flights, like flying to the Nahanni, or like, you know, going down the river, like going to Nunavut, like all these things really cost a lot of money. So we kind of came up with this idea to like do a behind the scenes, basically, and it ended up being a TV show about it. And somehow we convinced Discovery to make it, because it's not a Discovery project. And I think they were interested, maybe because of some of the like quote celebrities, like Canadian musicians who were involved. And we had done a test shoot in Gross Mourne, and it had kind of gone well. And I'd edited this really weird 40-minute, like non-narrative visual piece, and somehow they seemed to like it. And I think that everybody was really into like HD nature at that point, you know, so they thought like, I think the sort of nature porn thing was really popular. And it just kind of all came together, and we managed to get the funding from Discovery, and then you trigger a bunch of like Canadian Media Fund and tax credits, which are government support things that basically like match the broadcaster contribution. So like it was like in the end, like I think a $2.6 million project or something. So it costs a lot. Yeah, it costs a lot of money. And you know,
this is like you had to go pitch to Discovery?
Yeah.
How crazy is that experience? Like, what do you have to do to prepare to go pitch to Discovery?
You have your synopsis, you have all your ducks in a row, you have your budget, you have to have a lot together to be able to confidently talk to them about it, you know, and how it's going to work, how you're going to market it, like all these things, the logistics of it. But, you know, you have a couple meetings, you introduce yourselves, and if they like what you're presenting, then, you know, you have another meeting, and then you just keep kind of developing it. So yeah, it worked out. And in that scenario, like I was in the field for 6 of those 13 parks as the producer and director of one of them, of the TV series. And like we literally had a crew of like the director and 3 musicians who were going to make the film, plus the DP who was shooting it. Then we had the director of the TV episode and a DP and a sound person of the TV series making that about them. And then we had a PA, usually like one other person to help with all of it. Yeah. And then we were literally camping, like in almost all the parks. Like we were like in tents, like the crew, the cast, you know, the artists. And we had a chef on site because like we were too busy, like out all day, like so we had someone cook. It was like a mind bending experience for me. It was so incredible, like to get to the places like Haida Gwaii, Kluane in the Yukon. Like the places I got to go were insane, and the friends I got to make through it, all these incredible artists and musicians that I love. Sarah Harmer, Bry Webb, Jim Guthrie was on the Haida Gwaii one. Like just all these people who now, like even Cadence Weapon, who just won the Polaris Prize. He was like back then, like he was on the Calgary one. It was like I've never been out in like in like the country like this camping, like, and I was like, yeah, I know, like this is crazy, man. And like, and we were out in Waterton Lakes in Alberta, and it was just like surreal and like life changing experience, I think, for everyone involved. And it came out and it won like a best performing arts Gemini for the TV series, which is like, again, not a thing Discovery wins. And we were really happy though, obviously. And then the shorts as sort of we packaged as a feature, which ended up being 2 hours long because 13 shorts, that played a bunch of festivals and like, and would sometimes get like distributed as small shorts and stuff like that here and there. And we would sometimes present it live. My cats are fighting.
I love that we're talking about like a serious $2.6 million budget Discovery show, and they're like, "Oh yeah, my cats are fighting."
Yeah, it happens.
The joys of being an artist.
Yeah, and then yeah, it was. So it got out there. We made a website, we did all these things. So it was fantastic, and it like I made you know, a good salary on that I was able to move to the county and get a house here in Cherry Valley. So that was really, you know, life changing for me on so many levels. And then did some projects after that. One where we tried to do a spin-off and took writers to Torngat National Park in remote Labrador. Sheila Rogers was involved, Joseph Boyden, some other people, and that ended up just being a one-off. But it was again a crazy experience, like remote travel in Canada that I would never go to otherwise. And then we made some heritage minutes, Tess and I, for Fifth Town out here, which is a totally different experience because it's like the first one we made, like we shot in Hamilton, and you walked in and it was like about the War of 1812, 2 different minutes, and we had like 2 days to shoot. And I remember coming to set and there was like
2 days?
Yeah, a day each. I mean, they're only a minute, right? They're a minute each, so you don't have to get that much footage. But like I remember going to set, showing up at like 6 a.m. and seeing like 5 cube trucks and like 40 people unloading gear and being like, oh, I guess I'm in charge of all these people. You know what I mean? Like, and it was just kind of like you delegate, right? Like you're like, okay, I'll hire this person to hire these people to hire those people. You know what I mean? And then you show up there and you're like, oh, now I have to make decisions on what all these people are doing, kind of, you know, and you just have to kind of like manage it, and like you just have more resources, which leads to more questions and leads to more decisions and like all this stuff. But then when we made the Heritage Mint that we went up to Cape Dorset to shoot, it was back more documentary style, where we took a DP, John Price, sound, Paul O'Coin, and Tess and I, and we got, I think, 3 or 4 people from Iqaluit, and then flew from there to Cape Dorset, and we filmed with like a crew of, you know, 4 or 5 people. And so that was just the conditions we were in, and we just kind of feel comfortable like not having to like, you know, have that giant crew to light things or have extras to make something. Like you just scale down your production to what makes sense. And they were both the same budget per minute, but like obviously the travel to get to Cape Dorset was much more expensive and stuff like that. So I guess I've just gotten used to as a producer, coming from a documentary more background. It's like you just scale your budgets and your production expectations to what the actual budget is. Like the budget of one Heritage Minute, I don't think I'm like not supposed to say it anymore, but was something like 140,000 or something. So, you know, that's 1 minute. My feature costs 75,000. You know what I mean? Like, so it's
very different.
Yeah, it's really weird, and you just have to make them in different conditions with different expectations, and
So when it comes to like,
just wait, I love that Susie just related our chat with Ryan to Adele's live where she was scared that her dogs would keep barking and would poop on the floor. So we're all the same, you know.
Now I'm gonna read the comments.
Yeah. Adele's dogs.
Yeah. So like when you're like like it seems like as a producer, you have like these kind of like they seem very different. Like managing 40-ish people and crew and set versus like more documentary. Like, do you have a preference for like which way you like to?
I mean, I would like to make the bigger films because I feel comfortable enough to, again, like delegate and hire the right people. But I definitely like documentary, even just going out on my own and just filming and being the camera person and the sound and everything. There's something like immediate and intimate about it that like I went to Spain before the pandemic because I'm working on a documentary about truffles, and I got a little bit of development money, and I went there, and I didn't have that much. It was literally like $5,000 or something. So I ended up hiring a DP from who ended up being in Switzerland. I was trying to find someone in Spain. Through a connection, I met a guy in Switzerland who is a great DP, and he was like, "Okay, well, I know you don't have a lot of money, but I'll do it for $1,000, and like I'll bring my camera and I'll meet you there in Spain." And I was like, "Great." So like he took a chance and I fed him well. That's what I always like. That's my main rule as a producer. I'm like, feed your crew well. Um, and, um, and we filmed for like 3 days, I think, or so in, like kind of outside of Valencia in Spain. And we both had a great time, got to try some fresh truffles and meet some really interesting people. And, yeah, so, uh, I really got a kick out of that, just being me and him, and like I don't have to talk to any other people. And like I was shooting some second camera, and he was even like, let's not bring the big camera, let's bring like a DSLR, because you don't want your subjects to be to like, you want them to feel comfortable with you, and you don't want them to feel intimidated by a giant camera or like these big moving pieces and stuff. Like let's just pretend it's almost like a still camera, and like you're
Yeah.
not trying to like hide it from them, but you're like just trying to make it feel more natural so they're not performing, so there's that element of it too, that when you're just solo or with one other person trying to make it, you can really get that intimacy of reaction from the people you're with and talking to. So yeah.
That's so lovely.
Yeah, it's such a strange skill to have, this ability to delegate out to other people. I find like as a creative person that I have a very hard time letting anybody else have like creative control of the project. I'm getting better, but like I can't imagine like being like, hey guys, we're gonna make this project, and like stepping away and essentially just kind of managing everybody and not being directly involved. Because I feel like with like those like those bigger shoots, like you're not running a camera, you're not holding a boom, you're like sitting back and like telling everybody what to do.
And like watching
and
things
having
and
like
making sure what's supposed to be there is there. And
like with those kinds of crews, are these people that you've like worked before and have a rapport, and you're like, I know you, John, I have worked with you before.
Yeah,
Or
sometimes like I think what you do in those bigger ones is you hire what they call the key creative, right? So like the DP, and then the DP brings like, depending on the size, like 5 or 6 people that he trusts, you know what I mean? So you might meet them for the first time, but like the DP, you trust him, you have the conversations with him, then he says to his guys in more tech speak like, "Hey, I need an Apple box and like 5 HDMIs and like set those up there," and you're like, "All right, he's taking care of that, cool." Like, and then you have a monitor, that you're looking at the shot he's setting up, and then he's like coming over to you and saying, and they're setting it all up. And then you're like looking at it together, and he's like, "Oh, like, yeah, let's move this here. And maybe the actor can enter like this, whatever." So you're just kind of like fine tuning the details, which is a really fun process because you're really getting down to the finite of what the shot looks like, whereas in documentary, you're much more at the whim of like, where are you? Is the surroundings? Is it raining? Is it windy? Is there a car honking in the background? So your sound's going to be like bad. You know what I mean? Like all these like real world scenarios that you're trying to respond to. But and then, yeah, so there's definitely people at every level of that, like on Drifting Snow, Sonia brought on her friends who helped with makeup or helped with costumes. And like I remember we went shopping with Trisha, her friend, in Picton at the secondhand store to get some like costumes for Sonia's character in the movie, or to get some, whatever. And like I was like, this is how we're really doing this. Like, but yeah, like we're just finding clothes. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're doing. Like, and I probably wouldn't be a part of that process if it was like a bigger film. You know what I mean? Like they would just show me outfits and go, "What do you think of this?" And I'd be like, "Okay, cool." Like, or no, like more blue or something like that. And they'd go back and but you don't have the time or the resources, so you just kind of like go with it. But I like that. I like trusting people. Like I had to edit a lot of this, and my background's as an editor, just by virtue of budget and time and all that stuff. But like, I wish I didn't. I wish I could have my friend Andreas, who did a lot of the editing too. He did like 3 weeks on it. He would come out for a week, we'd work on it. He'd go away for a month and do, his normal job in Toronto, and then come out again, or I'd send him a cut. And that was a good process, but I just wish I could, like, directors know this, but like, lay down on the couch and let them edit. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it sounds so like lazy, but you're really just like there listening and watching them kind of do their thing, and then they tell you, hey, look at this, and you look over and you're like, oh yeah, that's good, but maybe do it like this, or like, no, go to the next scene, like that was great, like, or something. Like, you just give feedback. And I like that better because you have more distance, because you can get real, I don't know what the word is, but you can lose your focus by seeing things over and over again, especially in the edit. So yeah.
Editing is a test in patience that I do not have. Even the little bit of editing that we do doing like YouTube videos, I just don't have it. I'm so like, once it's like on a screen and even roughly put together, I'm like, good enough, move on. Like, I don't have the fine tooth comb. Like, and Kyle will do like subtle changes, and I'm like, whoa, that's like a hugely different, like, it looks totally different now, and like it feels so much better. But like, I just don't have that skill.
We realized that we'd been editing our art discourse videos off of, I bought a new, like, not a Wacom tablet, it's a Huion tablet, and like, it's got really great color. And then I started watching some of them on Chrissy's MacBook, and I was like, oh no, they're all like kind of green. And I'm like,
right. Yeah.
So then I've been spending this week, like the past couple of days, like trying to like recolor edit and color grade all like our art discourse, because I'm like, So
yeah, that's the thing. Like, I have great speakers here, and then like I end up, if I'm outputting something, for like, I'm working on a TV series right now, and like, I'm like, no, I just listened to it on my iMac, because like, that's how someone's going to watch it, like on their laptop or something, and I want it to be mixed for that. Otherwise, like, it'll be mixed for these nice speakers, but like, it might not sound good on that. And even when you're in a mix, like the other whole part of filmmaking, when you lock your cut, like you lock your edit and you finished it, then what people normally don't do is, like, you normally like post right to YouTube or do whatever, right? You do a bit of color work, whatever. But like, in filmmaking, you go to a post-production studio, and you spend, depending on your budget, again, like on this one, it was like 3 days, color correcting 75 minutes of visuals, you know what I mean? Like, and going in with, like, they have such amazing tools where they can go in and like isolate a tiny piece of the frame, or like, tint like a certain thing, or like, I don't know, put a vignette, like just like very subtle, not as whatever. And so you spend all this time making that look great, and then you go into sound mix too. In this case, I think we spent about a week, but there's also this, like, 2 weeks of prep to clean up the dialogue. And we shot in cars, so there was a lot of car hums. So they had to remove the car hum as much as they could. And then I had to get Jonas or Sonia to redo some of their lines, because the lines were had too much car hum on them. So like, I had to say to them, like, hey, Jonas, can you like watch this and like re-say your lines as if it's like you're watching yourself say it, you know what I mean? Things like that. So, and you try and like blend that in to make people unaware of it, then you mix the music in there too. And you might, if you're doing a 5-1 mix, you might send like the sound of the wind to the back channels, and like, have the creaking trees in the foreground or something like that. So it's, the more time you can spend, the more you can detail that atmosphere, that vibe that you're trying to get, right? And it has a certain effect on the final product. I mean, we're talking about all these details. I mean, still story, performance, the visual language of it. Those are so obviously fundamental. But yeah, there's a lot you can do within that pushes the quality of it in different directions.
So
I think. Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
So like, making film is such a crazy process. Like, we're learning that it is really like many different skill sets. Like, it's like filming, it's acting, it's writing, it's dialogue. Like, it's
also like really like paying. I don't know. This is something that I always loved about watching like TV shows especially, is that like little shifts, like I'll be like, your coffee was full in the last, like when you were cut.
Yeah.
Like I love shit like that. Like actually that part of editing, I would totally, if that was like an isolated job, that would be like my choice. I would be like, I don't care about sound. I'm not great with like, you know, being fussy about color.
Well, there's a continuity person, if you can afford them, that you hire for your shoots that just literally watches that kind of stuff, or like wardrobe.
Yeah, that's my favorite part. I love that people don't catch a lot of them, is what I've noticed, especially with Netflix.
Well, it's not that they don't. It's like somehow you're probably in editing and you're like, we just had to use this shot, or like we got better. Or like we backed ourselves into a corner and we didn't shoot a close up, and therefore, you know what I mean? Like yeah, it's amazing. And like I can't tell you how many things in documentary editing specifically I have completely faked. Like I love that when you just like find a shot like from like a scrap bin of like one other day of something, and you know, insert it here because it's someone's hand or something, you know what I mean? Like, and it works, and like no one thinks about it. Or like a classic one in documentary is if like you have a shot that's like from behind someone's head and you can't see their lips moving, right? And you can like put a line under that so that they're not actually saying it in that moment, but like you know, it seems like they are, and people don't think twice about it because they're just watching it, you know? So, yeah, I like those things, but then it's also that sometimes I get that ethical thing of like, it's more so when you're cutting dialogue, like, and you're reducing the hums or the stutters, you know, as someone's talking. And sometimes that's like just the way they talk, and it makes them sound better when you take out those things, but it also kind of takes away the nature of who they are in a weird way, you know? So
I feel like YouTube has really, I don't know, kind of enforced the removal of those in a way. I feel like the way we view, I notice this even with me, like when I watch even these conversations back to get the timestamps for putting them online, I watch them at 2x speed because I can't listen to people having a conversation at a normal rate anymore. Like it drives me bananas. And I think it's the same with those, like cutting out any pause or, you know, moment of thinking or awkward stutter. It's like our brains have become accustomed to them not being part of how a conversation sounds when you're looking at it on a screen.
Yeah, like there's this great Quebecois filmmaker, Stéphane Lafleur, who I was talking to in Montreal like a year or so ago, and we were talking about films and how like you don't see out of focus shots in films anymore. And like, you know, when you were shooting on film, especially if it's an independent film, say in the 70s or 80s or something, and you didn't get the shot, but you didn't get the shot in focus and you only got 2 takes of it or something, and you had to use it, and you just used it, or like you worked with that aesthetic, you know what I mean? But now everything is just so like has to be perfect or has to be polished or whatever, and so maybe it's more interesting to think about, oh, let's go a little soft on this shot, or let's like, you know, do something that, let's leave in those pauses, or let's let them stumble in the way they say that, or you know, I think that from an artistic point of view, it's much more interesting. From a efficiency and production model and, you know, television or whatever you want to call it, like it's just not part of that lexicon anymore. You don't do things that way. So
so bizarre. We do have a couple arts to share. We're getting kind of close to our 1 hour. This is now this is what always happens. So as I'm like, we need to do like talk A and then talk B, because I usually am like, I could just keep asking a million questions. Did you bring arts, or did
why don't you guys go first? Because I was like gonna show you some stuff in my house, but like now I can't really because I have renters here, and I didn't realize that until today. I was like, ah, damn, there's a couple pieces hanging in my house I wanted to show you, but the renters are there. So there's something I'll kind of take you guys inside to see this table I like that has a design on it, and so it's less like paintings or things, but You guys go first, and I'll try and remember if I have some things out here too. I don't have that many. I kind of failed at that. Sorry.
That's okay.
We had a great talk. The art
this is
a
upside down.
bonus.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So this comes from a portfolio that I was a participant of over the summer called the 2 Minutes Partings. And we've been like sharing 2 artworks from that every week for the past couple weeks.
Nice.
And so this is
by Alison Judd. So Canadian printmaker. And I think it looks like it's on like a Gampi paper, maybe. And I think there's not a lot of information about this particular piece by Alison, so I can't say with great certainty, but I feel confident enough to say that this is like maybe a printing from an actual piece of wood, like the grain of like a piece of wood.
Yeah. And
then it's folded in such a way that you pull the print apart to reveal
the saying when it says we are
are
soft rock miners beneath the overburden.
Nice. That's beautiful.
And yeah, so like Alison's work, I'll just give you like a couple sentences from like her artist statement. So Alison Judd's practice is rooted in printmaking at the intersection of print, sculpture, and language. She uses unearthly phenomena to ruminate on the transience, impermanence, and loss, as well as the slow accumulation and dissolution of knowing. So a lot of like Alison's work is like really predominantly black and white, and it looks a lot at like texture and like creating form out of paper, or it looks like paper-like material. So it's really, really beautiful work. Also, Alison's a lovely person, so highly recommend checking out Alison's website, and I think Alison's Instagram has a lot of printmaking on it. But beautiful. Yeah, I think that the like reveal, especially like because print is like usually feels like a very hands-off type, because it's like, I mean, this paper is so delicate. It's like semi-transparent. So to have this like movement, this quality that makes you feel like it's almost like a book, but it's not a book.
I'd love to have that and hang it, but then I'm like, but then you're kind of reducing the impact of the reveal. You know what I mean? Like, or I guess you could, it's so cool.
The like interaction that happens.
It makes me want to make like a pop-out frame, like, you know, like in pop-up books, like there'd be like a tab or a hole, and I want to like make a hole for it.
That'd be amazing.
So that's our first share.
Okay. Do you want to share both yours, and then I'll take you inside and show you mine?
Yeah, let's do that.
Sure.
So this is another print from the same portfolio. Come back here.
And this one is by Justine, just one second, Jenkins. So another Canadian printmaker. I believe that Justine maybe lives in the prairies. Couldn't find a ton of information about Justine, if I'm honest. So recently she did a beautiful book that I think was like done over the pandemic called Ecology of Recovering. And it seems like it's looking at sort of like ecosystems, but also having like a conversation about like slowing down and like taking more time and thinking about the nature of slowing down. And so looking at like sort of like loss and longing and recovery and just I think that these pieces were a lot of like tide pools, like reflections on tide pools. But this particular work, I'm not entirely sure the visual reference. I do know that it's an intaglio print. But I couldn't find any details about the nature of the imagery.
Super cool.
But yeah.
A little bit of a vortex there.
A little bit. Where's this little dog? What are you doing down there, puppy? Nothing good. So yeah, I mean, this print collection has been incredible. The works that are in it. really.
It's been fun to get a nice box of artwork.
And just like a really beautiful selection of Canadian printmakers, like contemporary Canadian printmakers.
So how does it work? Can anyone sign up for it, or like what's the process?
So like with a print exchange, so like it's a print exchange. So I got an invitation sent to me through Gmail. Hey, I'm organizing this exchange. I'm trying to find expressions of interest. And so the person put together kind of like a list of people who are interested.
Right.
And then once you kind of have that list, you can then determine how big the edition is going to be. The idea is like if there's like, 20 people that have signed up, you make 20 prints and then you essentially just trade with everybody and you end up with a whole suite of them.
Nice.
So it's all artist participated. So I think there was something like 20 some odd artists, and the edition that you had to give was 12. So you didn't get one from every single person, but you got a selection of 12 of the 20-ish artists. And it didn't cost us anything to participate in. I think we had to like send some money to help for shipping. But the idea is like more about the exchange of ideas and exchange of like objects.
Yeah.
Like it's a very weird thing to think about a print exchange where like you invest all this time into make something and you just kind of give it to a bunch of other people for free. You get a bunch of prints back.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool. Now I have a bunch of prints.
Yeah. No, that's great.
It's a very lovely experience because I think it's a very unique thing to printmaking. Like it doesn't really happen in painting or so like it's a weird tradition that's kind of evolved in the printmaking world.
It's very cool.
Yeah. Those are our shares.
Okay, I'm gonna take you inside now and try and not let you see the mess, and I'll just let you see the barn, I guess, while I'm walking. But
during the winter months, you just move everything inside?
Yeah, basically. I moved my desk and everything into the back room here, which I'm going to show you, which is where I stay, like when I have renters and stuff. So it is messy, but it's a lovely window here.
So nice, lovely ceilings, lovely walls.
So this, can you see this?
Yeah. Oh, very mid-century.
This is a yellow table with like, I don't know, I've got a lot of stuff on it, but doodles and stuff. And I don't know, I got it. It was from a film set in Toronto, and I managed to get it like as a prop sale or something, but it's like a great dinery kind of like table. And I've always had it and loved it for like the past 10, 12 years. And it just kind of inspires me with like just how like overlapping, and I don't know, there's something about it that I really love. The color and everything. So that pattern.
Wait, did you say a prop sale?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it was like used as a prop. Like I don't think it was created as a prop, but I think it was like, used in a series or something, in a diner or something like that, and then they were selling off the stuff. Okay, so then
Kevin says, I want a shirt with that pattern so bad. Yeah, this is like a pretty quintessential like 60s pattern design. I feel like that particular pattern is actually like a pretty famous pattern. I'm trying to remember what that time period was, but I think it was like, it's very like mid-century. Is it like metal on the sides and on the legs?
Yeah, you can kind of see here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah,
it's got this like chrome and like metal. And then
so good.
Then the other piece is from the National Parks Project. When we were in Saskatchewan, one of the musicians was Andre Etienne, who is also like a really famous painter. He's an amazing musician too. And he lives in Toronto. And he did a painting while he was in the park camping, but he did it with like mostly crayons and watercolors. And this is it here. Hope you can see that. Yeah. So
lovely. What park was this? Sorry, in Saskatchewan?
This is Saskatchewan, Prince Albert National Park. And he brought like his kids' crayons, and he did it with that and some watercolor. And he doesn't normally do like nature like images. He does like really strange like characters and people and stuff that are beautiful, but like nothing like this. And he hasn't signed it because he just gave it to me from his sketchbook after, but I've always like treasured it, and we put it on the cover. We made a record for the MPP, like a vinyl record, and we put this on the cover of it. And he gave it to me, and so I've always really loved this work. And I guess it's meant maybe more to me than just the actual painting or work itself, because I was there and I saw him doing it and stuff. So yeah, but it's really beautiful too.
And does it have all the like teared out like bloop 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 bloop
Like
from the
yeah,
top of the sketchbook?
Yeah, you can see that.
Yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. He was just like sitting at a picnic table, like just like drawing it there and the reeds in front of him and stuff, you know, and painting it. We shot a little scene of him painting, and then he finished it, and like, yeah, it was really nice. And then the last one, I guess, I got, well, two quick ones here. This is just, again, the reflection. I don't know if you can see this, but it's kind of just this like, you know, print of like the Rockies or something like that. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can here. It still has like, when I bought it, it said like $2 on it, like someone had written on the frame. And I tried never to take that off because I like the idea that someone had put like $2 on this like image of the Rockies, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's so majestic and whatever, and it just said like $2. So yeah, I kept that.
Is he saying that the table 1950s, 60s
Formica table?
Yeah,
Formica
Formica,
table.
I think. Yeah, I think it's Formica. And then this last one is like, I like this, like, I'll put it sideways, maybe you can see it. You see that guy?
Oh.
Wait, you might have
like
to turn
a
it.
ship.
I don't think sideways works.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Like a nautical like lighthouse?
Yeah, like a lighthouse and a ship. And like I was working on a screenplay about two guys who shipwreck on the West Coast, and this one just always meant a lot to me for some reason, because it's just so like, the colors are so nice in it, and it's like the shape of it's widescreen, I guess. For me, thinking of it as a film, and like, yeah, it's just, you can see another ship in the distance, kind of. I don't know if you can see it on this, but like, yeah, it's really just like really subtle and kind of nice, and the colors blend really nicely, and I always really like that. And it's so small, like as a print, and just little things I found, and then a big ship. But yeah.
I think I love that, like the pieces that you showed sort of like reference back to the type of films that you like to make and the type of like imagery and conversations that you like to have. I think that's really fascinating.
I mean, who knew that those would be the pieces that were like happen to be inside my house? But I guess it makes sense.
Yeah.
I always think
You're
that
like, these are the pieces that I surround myself with, and weirdly they influence me.
Yeah, like I always am like, oh, I don't have any good art, I don't have any good whatever. I'm like, no, I guess the things I have up are things I actually like. So yeah.
Oh, this has been so fun. Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you for being so like willing to talk about the process and the financing and the different like considerations you have to keep in mind when you're like making films. And I think the generosity of that, like we really appreciate it, and I think that a lot of people don't get to hear that. So I know that we get a lot of messages after about how nice that is.
No, I think
Susie
it's great
says
about
it's
what
nice
you
to
guys
see
do.
you.
Hi, Susie. Congrats on the new little one. But yeah, I think it's great that you guys do this, and that you talk so frankly about the process, and like just like like all aspects of it. I think that's super important and inspiring, and like it's like I said, it was a bit of therapy for me to just like be able to like, yeah, this is how I do things, and then I think about it after. I'm like, oh yeah, that's how I do things, you know. Like, so,
Natasha says cool hat too.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. Hat and jacket, I'd say.
All right, I'll take it. Yeah. And you guys look great, by the way.
I'm representing another local artist's shirt. I think I've worn this several times. This is like one of my favorite. It's an ambivalently yours sweatshirt that says "Full of Rage."
Nice.
Highly recommend purchasing this. Even if you're not full of rage, it feels good to wear. You know.
So where do you get that though?
I think Kelly has some in her shop, or she did anyways.
Kelly's shop, downtown Picton.
And also, I think that there is an online store. I'll link more ambivalently yours stuff in the stories.
Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish I could ask you guys more questions too, but we'll have to do that off the record, I guess, sometime.
Yeah. We'll have to just hang out maybe.
Yes.
That would be good.
Yeah. And
Sweet.
I want to put some prints by you guys on the wall at some point too. So yeah, I have to talk to you about getting some prints. So the next time I share, I can share the prints I got from you guys.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Ryan,
have a wonderful,
nice
wonderful Friday and a good weekend.
You too. Okay.
And hopefully we'll see you soon. Well, we need to get more coffee sent here. So
you will.
Sign us up for that.
Yes. And go buy Chrissy and Kyle's coffee designs on the Vortex because they're beautiful to look at.
Also, the coffee's delicious.
Coffee is really too, but the designs.
I've been drinking. Wow. Not so good.
Oh, what are you doing, buddy? Okay, I'll get you some ASAP.
What am I doing? I'm living in the pandemic, man. I'm taking what I can get.
Okay, I didn't know it was that bad. I'll be there soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye,
See you guys. Bye.